You got me on this? Thank you. Good evening. My name is Mitch Tavera. I'm the Chief of Police for the Segundo Police Department. Thank you for coming to our community meeting night regarding recreational vehicles and oversized vehicle parking in our city. I'd like to give you a brief overview, introduce the personnel who are going to speak tonight, and this is a community meeting to talk about the proposed ordinance and anything that you as a group, as a citizen group, would like clarification on, understanding on. We're looking for input back so we can bring it back to council, so we can draft an ordinance or draft a resolution that basically is workable. That's the idea tonight. So anything and everything, please, we're looking for that. I'm going to introduce for you first Jeff Lehman. Jeff Lehman is Lieutenant Lehman. He runs the traffic division. This is falls under his purview. Basically, about 6 months ago, Jeff was tasked with this from City Council, from the City Manager's office, working with the City Manager's office, Davy Sanchez, to go out and look at what other cities are doing for oversized vehicles and recreational vehicles parking, because we've had so many complaints regarding recreational vehicles and oversized vehicle parking throughout our city. Now, in our city, we have two different basically parking areas. East of Sepulveda, you can't park at night. Okay, you just can't do it out there. So that is basically very easy for us to enforce. But west of Sepulveda, we have had quite a few complaints regarding oversized vehicle parking in the residential area and in the hollow, and recreational vehicles on Imperial Avenue and throughout our residential area and in the hollow. So this was tasked. We worked with city manager on that. And this is what happened is through the traffic division, we came back with a proposed ordinance that we brought back to council about a month ago, Jeff? About a month ago. We were then asked to come back to get more community input, because we did get community input at the time through a survey. And I'm going to have Jeff Lehman, Lieutenant Lehman, introduce that in just a minute and talk to you about what they've done. And with that, Jeff, would you come on up? Thank you.
Okay, thank you all for coming. This is a much bigger group than I anticipated. So let me first start with one of the things Chief Tavera said. When we brought this to City Council, the idea is we bring it to them and they either approve it or they don't approve it. They wanted us to come back and have a community meeting to talk about what some of your concerns are and to get ideas. So this ordinance that we're going to be speaking about tonight is the ordinance where we're looking for feedback for potential changes. So that's what this meeting is all about. I will explain the ordinance the way it is written. I will compare it to some other South Bay agencies and how they have their ordinances. I will talk a little about what brought us to this point where we feel like we need an ordinance. And then I'll be asking for your feedback on what you like and you don't like about it. Someone I work with closely in traffic, Casey's back there. She's going to be writing all of your ideas down, and then we get back together and we talk about it and try to come up with the best ordinance possible that has a positive impact on the most people and the least negative impact. So let me just start. What we started with was a survey. So Daisy Sanchez was an intern for the city manager, and she was tasked with looking into an ordinance for oversized vehicles and RVs. So between the date of June 7th and August 1st, every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, Daisy got in a police car with our school resource officer, Scott Black. They drove around the city for a couple hours, and they marked the location of where all the vehicles were, oversized vehicles or RVs. During that time, of all the RVs they came across, 40% this includes RVs and this includes any oversized vehicle. So this could include box trucks, delivery type trucks. 40% of the vehicles they came across were parked in the Smoky Hollow area. So they were parked on Franklin and then the 100 or 200 blocks of Nevada or any of those streets over there. 15% of the vehicles they came across were parked on Imperial Avenue. The other 45% were scattered around, mostly in the residential area. And as you can imagine, the residential area would probably have more of the RVs, Smoky Hollow, more of the delivery trucks. On Imperial Avenue, if you drive that way, you see the vehicles that are over there. So, of the vehicles that we came across, 60% of those vehicles were registered in other cities and states, and 40% were from El Segundo. She did a public opinion survey, which was on the city website. She had 828 responses on the survey. 60% of the people surveyed stated that they felt that parked oversized vehicles block their line of sight when driving. So 60% of the people that answered felt like parked RVs create a hazard for them when they're driving. 73% of the El Segundo residents think vehicle habituation is a problem on some level. So you may or may not know this, but we're here to talk about people parking their personal RVs in the residential area, but we're also here to talk about the people on Imperial Avenue and sometimes in the Hollow where they're living in their motorhomes and they're parking in front of people's residences. So about 75% of the El Segundo residents feel that there is an issue with vehicle habituation. And 58% want a more restrictive ordinance. We don't have an ordinance. We follow the state law, which is the 48-hour rule. So the way it works right now is a vehicle like an RV or any oversized vehicle can stay in one spot for 48 hours and then it has to move. So that's the way the law reads. But in reality, people only have to move the vehicles a couple inches and it starts over again. So if you're a person that has an RV across the street from your house and you don't like that and you call the police, we come out and mark it. We come out 48 hours to check it to see if they moved it. And if they've moved it 2 inches, it's a redo. We mark it again. And so the 48-hour rule is really easy to kind of get around, which is why so many cities have created ordinances. The issues that made us consider ordinances here in El Segundo is oversized vehicles negatively impact normal flow of traffic, as I talked about before with people that were concerned about parked RVs. They create visual obstructions, exposes bicyclists to greater danger as they ride around, end up with people living in RVs near residences, schools, and businesses. That is a real problem. Just ask any graveyard officer, they'll tell you that these RVs that are parked on Imperial Avenue, there are people inside, and we don't have the teeth to get them to open the door. We knock on the door, and if they don't answer, we mark the vehicle and drive away. There's nothing we can do. And they create a visual blight. So I'm going to go through the ordinance as it is written. And like I said, I just want to remind you, this is the way it is written, and we are here to talk about this. So make notes, remember what you want to say when it comes time, and so I'll explain. An oversized vehicle is defined as a vehicle that does not exceed 22 feet in length, 7 foot in width, or 8 foot in height. And they are defined in 18010 of the Health and Safety Code. That's really wasn't even necessary to have in here, but I threw it out there. Our ordinance will cover every type of trailer. So whether it's a camping trailer, a tent trailer, whether it's a work trailer, all trailers are covered in this ordinance. So the main elements of this ordinance as written are as follows. There will be no detached trailers on public streets at any time. So if you have a camper trailer and it is attached to your vehicle in front of your house during the day, that's legal. If you have a camper trailer that is not attached to your vehicle in front of your house during the day, that is illegal. There can never be detached trailers in the city of El Segundo. So no RVs or oversized vehicles will be allowed on the streets between the hours of 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. Now that is the law that LA City follows. They don't have a permit system. So if you're in LA City, while it doesn't appear that they enforce it, if you're in LA City's jurisdiction, you just can't park your RV anywhere on the street between 2 and 6, whether you live there or not. So this is the main element of our ordinance, and then we're going to get into the exceptions. There are no trailers, RVs, and oversized vehicles within 25 feet of an intersection, and people cannot run cords and hoses from any parked RV to their residences. Now here's the exceptions to that. Sounds dismal, but here's the exceptions to that. Any vehicle with an El Segundo, the exception is any vehicle with an El Segundo permit issued and displayed. So the way the system will work is this, or the way it's proposed is this. There is a registration process and there is a permit process. And those are two different things. If you're living in the city of El Segundo and you have an RV, you bring your vehicle registration down to the police department with some proof that you live in the city, like a utility bill. And we have you fill out an application. We give you a sticker. Your vehicle is now registered in the city of El Segundo. That sticker is to be displayed in an obvious place. If you have a trailer, maybe the left rear on the boat trailer. If it's an RV in the window somewhere, but somewhere where officers can clearly see it. Once your vehicle is registered, Then you get into the permit system. So the permit system is you come down to the city of El Segundo, or the police department, and you pick up your permits. The way we have it written is a resident can get 96 overnight permits a year. That's what comes out to 24 a quarter. So it really only matters between the hours of 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. So during the day, they can be there as long as if they're trailers that are hooked up to a truck or it's an RV, it's legal. But it's between the hours of 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. that the vehicles will need to be registered in the city of El Segundo, meaning those vehicles belong to a resident of El Segundo, and a permit has been purchased or received from the police department, so we know that it's supposed to be out there at the time. There are exceptions. There's a handicapped exception. I'll just be real quick with this, but if anybody is handicapped, they can demonstrate that they're handicapped, which would be by a placard from the state of California, and they can demonstrate that that's their primary vehicle. That would be an exception. Any vehicle with mechanical issues, we give time to fix that. And then there's a lot of exceptions, people doing their jobs, buses, utility drivers, fire trucks, things like that, emergency vehicles. The question was, are there fees? We haven't decided that yet. Again, that's one of those things where we're here talking about it. The way it was proposed, we didn't put anything in there. Some cities charge fees, some cities don't. So when you have registered the vehicle and you've pulled a permit, you can park the vehicle on the street between the hours of 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. They're 24-hour permits. They go from 12 noon till 12 noon the next day. The permit has to be displayed. We haven't really worked out what the permit system is going to look like. The registration sticker will have a number on it. So the way that Torrance does it is the officer sees a vehicle parked out on the street, goes up to the permit, checks the number on the permit against in their system, in their database, and if a permit has been activated from, if they run the number on the registration sticker, they're able to tell whether someone pulled a permit or not, so it's legally parked. And you can, they're 24-hour permits, but you can stack up to 3 in a row, so you can get 72 hours. And the same rules apply to visitors. You can get visitor permits, so if someone comes to visit from out of town, someone comes to visit in an RV, you as a resident can come down and get a visitor permit for that vehicle as well. And I already talked about the handicap. What the other South Bay cities are doing, and this is again one of the issues, is all the other South Bay cities are doing something, and that's part of the reason we have so many vehicles in the Hollow area, is because a lot of these vehicles are not registered to El Segundo residents or businesses. This is a storage area for their delivery trucks. And the reason for that is because you can't do it in other cities. Manhattan Beach prohibits detached trailers except during loading and unloading. So Manhattan doesn't allow detached trailers as well. They prohibit all other oversized vehicles from being within 25 feet of intersections, and they cannot be adjacent to parks, schools, and community centers. Redondo Beach, they allow their residents to get 3 7-day permits. They can get 6 loading and unloading permits per month. The residents may park on weekends and holidays without a permit, and permitted vehicles must be within 400 feet of the permit holder's residence. Torrance is essentially like ours. Hermosa Beach, the permits are available only to residents. You must pull a permit every time an oversized vehicle is parked on the street. You must be parked as close to the permit holder's residence as possible. Cannot get more than 72 hours worth of permits at a time. They allow 8 permits per 90-day period and 32 permits per year. And the City of Hawthorne, you can get a 48-hour permit, but you can extend it to 72. They're only available in the traffic division, so you have to be able to predict when you're going to do it. You have to be there during business hours. So if you know you're going camping, you go down on a Wednesday and get it, but they're only available during normal business hours. So I got a lot of emails, and a lot of the emails were supportive of a permit system because we understand the idea behind the permit system, but we're responsible RV owners that pay storage, $200 a month, and we don't want to have to pay $10 every time we bring it home to leave it in front of our house. That was one of the main concerns. That's why we're here. This is yes. So is your idea to have an exemption for residents where residents can leave their RVs out the old 48-hour rule for residents, but a different ordinance for non-residents, or is it the same is it leaving it the way it is now? So, okay, so if I'm not mistaken, you believe that residents should be able to follow the old 48-hour rule. Yeah, and then, but non-residents have an ordinance for them. Okay. Yeah, that's ultimately what we want. We ultimately want to be able to do it online, and we'd probably start with some system where we could do it over the phone. Yeah. So your concern is the 400-foot mark. So the reason for that is, the reason that that's written in there, obviously, is it's to prevent people from, it also says 400 feet or as close as practical, because we do understand there are situations where it may not be safe, or where you live, there's just no place within 400 feet. So we understand that. But the idea of that is, there are residents, when I've gotten several emails and calls from residents that don't like RVs parked on the street at all. They don't like it. And the idea of the 400-foot rule is it keeps people from parking their RVs in front of other people's homes. Yes, you would be able to call anytime, and then the person that answers the phone. The idea immediately is to at least create some type of Excel website, Excel spreadsheet, where we take all of the registration information, we put it in there. Jeff Lehman owns this trailer. We've confirmed that it's registered. It's all good, and he has purchased 24 permits or whatever if there's no charge, but he's received 24 permits. You call the jailer at 2 in the morning, answers the phone, or the sergeant or somebody, and you say, hey, I want to pull one of my permits, then it would be activated. And the idea then, if 2 hours later an officer drove by, saw your vehicle, went up, ran the number on your sticker, he could theoretically call the station and say, is there a permit pulled? And they'd say, yeah, he just called 2 hours ago. I'm on the website and I see it. That's the short-term solution to this. So there are a variety of problems. One of the problems is we get people calling, complaining that there's RVs parked on, 400 block of Center Street or whatever. That's a policing problem. The other policing problem we get is that there is a suspicious-looking motorhome parked in front of an apartment building on Imperial Avenue. So we would solve part if we had a system where our residents could just go to the 48-hour rule as long as they got a registration and proved that they were from here. And outsiders or someone not from El Segundo had to get a permit. We would solve that half of the problem. The vehicle's on Imperial Avenue, where who's in there, it's not registered El Segundo, knock on the door, they don't answer. Okay, we're going to tow the vehicle now. Now we can legally get inside the vehicle. It will solve that half of the problem. But we do get calls from residents that want us to mark RVs that are in the residential area, and it wouldn't solve that problem. Well, anything that's over the sidewalk is a violation, but it already is. It's already a violation. It's not changing, it's just it's written into this ordinance, but that's already been an issue. Now, I can tell you this, I'm not giving permission to do it, but I am simply saying that I doubt anybody in here has had an experience where they've had an officer knock on their door and say, hey, you've got cables across your sidewalk, unless somebody has called us. And I've been here for almost 25 years, and I don't recall ever getting a call like that. But at the same time, it's a tripping hazard. We cannot say, hey, it's okay to run extension cords over the sidewalk or in trees like that. That's a good question. I mean, so my understanding, and maybe Captain Turnbull can help me with this, that when it comes to the public easement, the sidewalk, and the parkway area, it doesn't just stop on the ground; it goes up. So I mean, you'd have to be digging on the public property to do that, to run it underneath in the parkway. But that's thinking outside the box. You must be an engineer. This is the guy that puts the man on the moon right here. Yeah, I would see that man after this meeting. You would call 524-2200. Assuming that you've already gotten the vehicle registered, so you took care of that immediately when it was implemented. You came down, filled out the application, and at the time you put the amount of permits that you're purchasing on the books, where we would have something in our Excel spreadsheet that says Bob has 20 permits that he's already purchased or signed up for. So you would call and say, hey, it's Bob, I live here, this is my permit number, I'm home, my RV's parked in front of my house, and you just activate one of your permits. Yeah, that's the idea. We would like it to be even more user-friendly eventually, where it's something that can be done online. But for right now, that's the most practical way to do it. So I see what you're getting at. Having the registration you believe will solve most of our problems. But the truth is that with the computers in the car, we just type in the license plate, tells us where it's from right away. So to make sure that with the permit, with the registration sticker on there, with a number on it, we can look at that and say, okay, A, this vehicle is from El Segundo, even if we did or did not run the plate. And B, we have a number on that sticker, and we can find out if a permit has been pulled or not.
Hi, Bob Turnbull, police captain. Just want to address the bigger problem, which is maybe the pink elephant in the room. You may all be the best RV owner in this room, but we have residents that live around, maybe you or maybe not you, that are tired of the vehicle being moved the 2 inches, the 5 inches across around the corner, playing the 48-hour rule and not storing it somewhere or not storing on your property. And that's kind of the big elephant in the room, is we get those complaints all the time. And so just having a registration process doesn't solve the problem for the person that doesn't want to store their RV on their property or at another location. We're trying to bring the best solution forward that meets the resident that lives near the RV owner and the RV owner. We've proposed the most permits in the South Bay, 96 in a year. That's more than any other community, and we went large because we figured it could be a problem. We went large on the distance from your residence when you want to come home. We didn't limit the 48 hours. We said, you know what, let's let them have 3 in a row, which violates state law, but we'll go ahead and give them a local ordinance that they could have it 3 days in a row if that's what it takes to get it loaded, get it ready, get it going, get it gone. Well, there's been no decision on that at all. So anytime we propose something that incurs cost on the city often looks to recoup the cost. But I know darn well that there's certain council members already that said, hey, we don't want to charge fees. That's up to them. Well, I think our goal, so we're getting a new website here eventually. We're going to get a new CAD RMS. We're getting new technology. And our goal is, I hope someday, if we have the ordinance in place, that you'll be able to go to a smartphone if you're that type of person, or if you want to call in, it's going to be something very simple. That is our goal, to take care of our residents. No, so this is a city that doesn't have a level street. I know that. And I'm also been an RVer. I'm an RV owner of sorts. And so I understand there's multiple ways to get your refrigerator going. 12-volt gas and electric. I know electric's the best. But so that's where the cord risk, that's on you. The city's not going to say, oh yeah, go ahead and put cords and things across the property. 400 feet, and that's why we have someone taking notes. If that's not reasonable, we're trying to keep it reasonable for the person that lives 600 feet away from the RV owner that has that RV parked in front of their home every month. So we're getting, they may not all be here tonight, but we have some non-RV owners.
Let me say one thing to you. We have a permit parking system in the northeast area of our city because we had so many people park in the residential area, residents couldn't park during the daytime. That is a no-fee permit system from the city. Understand how that worked? It was so you understand that. There was understand that. So you understand that Lieutenant is basically talking about what other cities have done. Nothing, just so you know, nothing's been decided, and this is what this is an information system for.
If you're speaking specifically about a hotel, so your question is about hotels. Most of them park on their property. If there's a visiting bus, there's a bus that's delivering people, but I know specifically the Embassy Suites parks their buses on their property. Aloft, which has buses, they're new, they park on their property. Yes, to answer your question. So an ordinance is a fancy name for a law. So it's local control. It's creating a new municipal code. And in that case, where we go up and we used to knock on the door and not be able to do anything, when we pull the tow truck up to hook up to it and start getting it on edge and slanting it up, then maybe they'll come out and talk to us. But we will have the ability to tow a vehicle that's not registered in the city of El Segundo. Understand? But you guys, right, what you're not hearing, there is another problem out there, and the problem is the people that move their vehicles around to circumvent the law. And that's a big problem that our officers constantly have to go out and mark tires, mark. And how many people had their RVs towed? I heard 1, 2, about. So that means we encourage you to call if it's suspicious or it's not a neighbor, it's something that you don't want to start a bad relationship with your neighbor, but if it's something that is there for that, we expect, especially with Uber now, especially next to the airport, people do that a lot. They come into town, they park, drop their car, they Uber in. We encourage you to call us so we can mark it for 72 and do an appropriate follow-up 72 hours later, and if it hasn't moved, we will tow it. Okay, let me be real clear. RVs, boats, trailers, 48 hours, we could issue. Well, oversized vehicles could be 5 hours in a residential area and we could cite. A commercial vehicle could be 5 hours. So that's a current law. 48 hours for RVs, trailers, and if it hasn't moved, we can issue a citation to it. If it's still there 24 hours later, we can tow it. So that's the current state law. For a passenger car, it's 72 hours. 3 days. It would have to be off a public street. So you're asking about a detached trailer, as our current proposed is any detached trailer would have to be on your property or off a public street. There's a couple safety issues there. They can roll away. If all of a sudden we need to get there, there's no one to move it. We can't have it moved. If there's a house fire and all of a sudden you have this travel trailer. So it doesn't, and it's in line with all the other South Bay cities for the most part that have no detached trailers. So you'd either have to leave it attached or get it where you normally stow it before 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. I'll tell you what we did. We Lieutenant Lehman, myself, we took it very personal to make this the best for RV owners, the best we can, and for non-RV owners, for our department to enforce a law that's tough to enforce right now. I'll give you a simple example right now, the way things work with our service, our level of service. If we have a street or a city where people park their cars on the streets, very few people use their property. I mean, there are a lot of cars on the streets. I'm one of them too. So now what happens is your car battery's dead and you come out. This is where the spirit of law comes up. There's numerous times if it's on street sweeping day, people call us, they notify us, we work with our resident. There's not a car towed, there's not a car cited. So I know you don't like maybe the spirit of the law, but we do work to serve our community.
Thank you for all of your input.
Yes, thank you for coming.